Preparing to live stream. Takes a few seconds here. Should be live streaming again. It's coming up on the YouTube now. Okay. Now we're up on YouTube. I'll start the recording again if I can find it. Yeah. Where'd the recording go? Resume recording. Okay, we're ready to roll, John.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I call the Guam Board of Accountancy March meeting into order, or to order. First of all, I'd just like to start off with, of course, we all know that our fellow board member, Todd Smith, passed on March 3rd. We had a memorial. There was a memorial for him on Saturday. Maybe we can just take the next 10 seconds, 15 seconds, just a moment of silence, just to remember Todd. Okay, thank you. We will certainly miss Todd. Hopefully he's in a better place. I'm pretty sure he is. And thanks, Dave and the board, for sending the flowers for the memorial. First item on the agenda, we'll go ahead. Let's see, let me just see who's here. Okay, present are board members, Francis Baba, Taling Taitano, Jenny Chu, myself, then Executive Director Dave Sanford. We also like to welcome our guest, Professor Ray Johnson, currently visiting professor at the University of Guam. Welcome, Ray.
Thank you, John.
First item, we'll go ahead and start with the approval of last month's minutes. So I believe it was sent out to all the board members. So if you haven't read it or reviewed it, please take some time to look at it. And if no issues, I'd like to hear a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Okay, I guess seconded by Francis.
Okay.
Thank you, Francis. So next item on the agenda, we'll just go ahead to old business. Dave, which one do you want to start with? The
We'll
endowment fund update?
Yeah, let's do the endowment fund update. So here I got the usual charts here. You can tell there's a little dip in the balance lately, about $500,000 worth. But
Okay.
when you look at it overall, I mean, the market's, it's gone from 36,000 a few weeks ago to as low as 32,000 something the other day. Now it's back up to 34,000. So, I mean, it's going up and down 500-600 points every few days, and kind of equaling itself out. So I'm reasonably confident that over time, when things start to settle down, it's mostly the geopolitical events that are just rocking the market back and forth, things will settle down eventually, and we'll be just as well off as we have been in the past eventually. So on top of that, we have another TCD coming due in April, and we'll be contributing to that. So I don't see any issues with the funding. And once we get the fund over the 5 million mark, then ultimately it'll have some ups and downs, but it'll keep growing. For reference, as of February 28th, we started with 4.7, we were down to 4.4, which is a 6.6% year-to-date loss. But compared to the two previous years of 11%, we're still not bad off. And I'm sure that by the end of 2022, this will probably even itself out to if not a gain, probably at least equal to what we started with. So we won't be that bad off. We have paid $11,000 in fees to date from management fees, and that's typical. And we'll be paying the UOG endowment fund. There's a percentage fee they allocate based on what the total cost is of the visiting professor program. So probably a couple $1,000s for their efforts. So that'll compensate them once everything's said and done. So, but overall, we're good from a statement funding point of view, unless anybody has any questions. From an overall program point of view, I think we've had some discussion. The dean appointed the ad hoc committee to review the accounting program, and that committee consists of Dr. Johnson, his wife Marilyn, the two full-time faculty at UOG, which is Martha and Doreen, also Jason, part-time faculty, and John as the representative from the advisory committee. And I think we all de facto nominated Ray to be the facilitator. And he gladly took that job on. So I would just ask him if he'd like to give a brief update on our first or actually the second meeting of the ad hoc committee.
Yeah, so I mean, we've had, at this point, we've had one meeting. We've got another meeting of the faculty coming up tomorrow, where the faculty will be looking at the curriculum and comparing the curriculum to the AICPA NASBA model curriculum. And I think that's probably an important first start. We'll be meeting as a full ad hoc committee again back in 2 weeks from today, or a week from today, I'm sorry. And we'll probably have more to report after that meeting. I think we've already begun to take steps to look at changing the entry to intermediate accounting in a way that's probably going to be a little more user friendly. And I think the next real deep dive is going to be looking at the undergraduate curriculum. The master's in accounting program at the University of Guam is potentially on the faculty senate discussion, I think, for sometime in April. And hopefully when that gets approved, then we'll revisit that curriculum, because it's going to need to be updated for CPA evolution. So hopefully we get a look at the undergraduate curriculum between now and then move ourselves on to look at the graduate, the Masters of Accounting program, and bring that up to date. So that's kind of what I see as being on the plate. Hopefully, I'd like to see us reach some conclusions and make recommendations by sometime in mid-May. So I'm going to do my best to keep us on track to do that.
Herding cats.
Yeah, it is a little bit of that, but most of these are pretty good cats to work with.
Thank God. Yeah. Yeah, well, I thought we made some progress in the last meeting. We had some good discussion, and from what I've heard from the dean, she's feeling like some of the conversations that haven't been had in the past are beginning to be had, which she says is a very good thing. So
yeah, I think so. So we'll certainly have a lot more to report back at your next meeting.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate the update. Anybody have any questions or?
No, thank you, Rick. Hope all goes well tomorrow's meeting. Keep us informed.
Oh, we will.
Are you wearing a helmet?
No. Not needed.
Okay. Okay, good thing. Yeah. Well, let us know if anything does come up that you do need. So,
Okay, you got it.
okay, thank you. Okay, John, you wanna, well, I guess what I should say is
Next
let's
item.
move on to this new licensee reimbursement policy
Yes.
update. I don't have anything for that at this point. After our discussion last meeting, I created a quick poll with the NASBA group. It goes out to all the other executive directors to ask them about. I had 3 or 4 questions on the quick poll, and for some reason it got. I don't know if I fouled up the process, but it got stuck in the process and didn't get released. So I'm waiting for it. I just talked to Cassandra today from NASBA, and she's going to get it out tomorrow. So sometime in the next couple of weeks, I should have some information on that. And then we can move forward if we get any good feedback. Well, feedback, good or bad, we'll be able to move forward with that one way or the other. I think we're going to wind up having to ultimately write it into a rule, but we can implement it as a policy on a test basis and see what happens. So, but I'm anxious to hear back from the other jurisdictions. So.
Sorry, Dave, what poll are you referring to?
Oh, it's called a quick poll. What you do is you put together all your questions and you submit it through this worksheet. Well, NASBA calls it a smart sheet. I guess I wasn't too smart, but I filled it all out, submitted it, and then thought it was going through the process, but then found out 3 days ago that it never actually got through the process. But NASBA takes the questions and creates it into a survey form, which they use. I don't know, one of the survey softwares they use. And then it goes out to all of the executive directors from every jurisdiction, and they have an opportunity to answer all your questions. And then NASBA takes the feedback and consolidates it and sends it back to me. So.
So what was the major question? I guess you were asking.
Yeah, the questions I was asking was, is your jurisdiction authorized to spend any money or to spend funds to facilitate the growth of resident CPAs in your jurisdiction? And if so, send me a link to the law or rule or whatever. And if you have, then, can you tell us what you did or how you did it? And what are any of the qualifying or qualifying criteria are, that kind of thing. So specifically relative to what we were looking at in our policy. So I'm trying to find out if anybody else is doing anything like that, and we'll see. But it'll probably be at least another week before I get any information back from it. So. Once it goes out, typically you get responses within 2 or 3 days. After that, it takes NASBA another day or two to consolidate the responses and send us all the information.
Okay.
So I should have it for next meeting at the latest. We should be able to make some recommendation for next meeting. Any other questions about that? No. We have an item here for the invitation for bid for the lease of office space update. Taling, I know you're in charge of that. I don't know if you have any update you want to give or not.
Sure. I think the board knows that we did advertise the IFB. I think it was last Monday and this Monday. We did it 2 Mondays in a row. And I think it's a 60-day period, if I recall correctly. But we did get one set of RFIs, which we responded to, and I believe that's posted online. Dave,
Yeah,
both
it's all posted on the website.
Right, the IFB and the IFB and the RFI response and related amendment are all on the website. So hopefully we'll get a bid. As far as I know, we only have um, one firm that registered that they received the bid document. But hopefully we'll get a bid and be able to move that forward before the current lease expires. And sorry, I didn't look at the agenda carefully, but if you don't mind, can I just go ahead and talk about the RFP for we're also working on
Yes.
that. We're also working on that because we think it's going to go over the 500,000 threshold. We're required to work with the AG. It's been, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks since we've asked the AG maybe 3 weeks, it seems longer, to ask the AG to work with us. Originally, I was hoping to get the RFP out in March. Still playing hide and seek with the AG. I've been told that what's that guy's name that the guy that you know, Dave?
Rob Weinberg.
Yeah, I've been told that Weinberg is going to work with us, and then I got called by Marlon Aguilar, and she sent me an email. I responded, but I haven't heard from her since. So I'll follow up tomorrow, and I'll copy John in,
Okay.
and hopefully we'll get some movement on it. So that's kind of what I have.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, just sorry, just for everyone's, I guess, reference, the current contract expires on September 30. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and I was hoping to have it out this month so we could have a couple of months for firms that might be interested to respond. But as the AG takes their time, there might be less and less time for firms to be allowed to respond. So I'll keep pushing them.
Okay.
Okay.
No questions. You want to go to the next item? There's something we didn't do in January, which is election of officers.
Election of officers.
I thought we talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it. The slate we need is the chair, vice chair, secretary, and a treasurer. So that's
Yeah.
basically
So
it.
I think with Todd's, since Todd is no longer here, I think, what was he? Didn't he hold a position?
He was the vice chair.
Vice chair, right? Okay.
Right. So I think Francis has been secretary, correct? So John, you've been chair, and then Todd was vice and Francis was secretary.
Okay, so I would nominate, can I nominate?
You can nominate yourself if you want.
No, okay, well, can I nominate Tolling at least for vice chair?
Yes.
Are you sure nobody else wants it?
We're
We're sure.
No, I think Jenny's content to be treasurer since Daphne left, and then Francis continues to be secretary. So you're welcome to be vice chair, unless John wants vice chair.
Oh, he can
Up to
be
you,
both.
Tolling.
He can be both.
Uh-huh.
No, he let you be chair.
Vice chair, vice chair. is fine.
Okay, so should we consider that our new slate of officers? John is the chair, Tolling is the vice, Francis stays secretary, and Jenny stays treasurer.
Move to
Okay, do we
approve
need-
by acclamation.
There you
Okay.
go. Okay.
Okay. So then we have done election of
I
officers.
need a second though, so just for the record.
Second by Francis.
Seconded by Secretary Francis. Okay. Okay, so that takes care of all of our old business at this point. Now we just have requests for approving the licensees. We have 51 new licensees, and I've gone through all of them. We have one from Guam. She's number 9. Works for Deloitte. I guess she was probably one of the auditors that came over from the Philippines a while back and decided to go for her U.S. CPA. So
Just, I'll make a comment here. I do have some staff that have been hiring for the Philippines, and they said they're having problems with their evaluations too as well. So I don't know the details, but it's interesting.
Educational
Yes,
evaluation.
yes, the educational evaluation. I mean, they have the 150 hours, but I guess certain courses they don't meet, and I don't know all the details, but I'll try and find out more.
Yeah, just tell them to let us know what the issue is, or if you let me know who they are, then I can have Jessica look and see what the issues are with their evaluations.
Okay.
The application process goes through NASBA, and NASBA does the evaluation. So, but we can always take a look at it. There have been, NASBA, the CPACE has been doing our applications and evaluations now for what, three years. And I think on 2 occasions they had a new person come in, and we had a couple of questions from the students that were evaluated. And when I went back to the NASBA and said, what's the deal? They realized that the girl had made a mistake. So they fixed it. So never hurts to ask.
Okay.
If they think they're not getting credit that they should, we can either get it fixed or find out why they're not allowing the credit.
Mhm.
Okay. But most of these are new licensees, initial certificates, and active test or non-attest. Most of them are for the bigger firms, but we have about 20 that are the new candidates that are just passing. And we also have a handful of reinstatements based on a couple of the emails we sent out, or the newsletter we sent out. I guess it woke up a few people, and they're like, oh, wow, I'm delinquent. I need to get back up to speed. So I think we had 4 or 5 reinstatements this time.
Mhm.
So total we have, I think 51. Yeah, 51 licensees, new licensees. And as usual, they're spread all over the place. Japan, China, India, pretty much everywhere through Asia. So
Did you need a motion to approve?
yes, ma'am, sure do.
Yes.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Then we have 2 people here requesting extensions. The first one is a girl who was taking care of her grandfather or family. He's been in and out of the hospital, so she couldn't actually sit for a test. And her notice expired on April 15th, but she's requesting an extension until June 30th. She did submit 10 pages of documents or so. I don't have a problem with that. And just the same as the second one, this guy was scheduled to take his exam on March 28th, and then he fell on March the 5th, and it has back pain problems and et cetera, et cetera. And he submitted all his doctor forms and everything else. So, but he's also asking only to extend until June 30th of this year. And he's extending not only his notice to test, but also his credit for audit and BEC. He was scheduled to test before they expired, and of course, when he fell, he hasn't been able to test. I don't really have an issue with extending these two to June 30th because we've extended all the other people that had issues with can't travel, couldn't test, all this kind of stuff through June 30th of this year. And we've made it very plain that we're not giving any further extensions for any of that. So I don't see an issue with extending. The first one's only 6 weeks and the second one's only like 3 months. So well, 2 months actually. Well, 3 months, I guess. So but I don't have a problem with that at this point. They seem to be legitimate reasons. So unless the board
And
has any
they've both
objections.
provided adequate documentation.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
from what let's see, from page 23 to page 47, so 24 pages of documentation that you might not necessarily want to see, but this is the write-up from the girl about her grandfather and all of the other stuff, and then her information, and then the hospital stuff. And the same as for the other guy, there's more hospital stuff from him too. Doctors, this is his write-up and his scores and his NTS, and then his appointments and his doctor information.
Mhm.
So he had his proof that he scheduled the exam and had to cancel it, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it all looks legitimate to me anyway. So
Okay, I mean, I guess it seems like we're all fine. So I guess we'll be approving it. Should be
yeah,
fine.
they've never asked for extensions before, and this is only 3 weeks, or 8 weeks and 3 months. So I don't have a problem with that. Anybody requesting an extension to go past June 30th is when we're going to start looking very carefully at who we extend for what, because all of the previous extensions will have been done and there will be no more on the, I couldn't get out of my test, I couldn't get the visa, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. So we've made it very plain to all the people we've extended that there are no more extensions in that regard. Okay. This one, I don't know if Ray might be a little bit interested in or not, but this, we talked a little bit about the integrated subject matter issues with giving credit and our UAA rule that we adopted. And so I put together a quick poll. This is the thing I put together for the NASBA quick poll and survey form that didn't get processed, but should be processed. But anyway, this is basically the question, and I said here, we're considering changes to rules concerning education requirements that must be met. We adopted the UAA model rules, blah, 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 suggested language about reintegrated subject matter concerning research and analysis, communications, and ethics. Since doing so, I feel we've walked through the valley of the shadow of death when it comes to education evaluations. Since we have not yet found a professor, including those that actually admitted to teaching it, like the guy that was in the breakout session I was in, there were two of them, that said, yeah, I teach it and I know it's integrated content, but I couldn't tell you how much credit to give for it. So I'm asking, number one, have the other boards adopted these rules with this suggested language? Number two, if you did, have you seen any evaluations that include semester hour credit for integrated subject matter, like research and analysis, communications? Also, are you seeing the evaluations that include credit for discrete courses? And I'm sure there's some in ethics, but I don't know about research and analysis. So, but we'll find out. And then does your jurisdiction require the 2 semester credit hours in research analysis, communications, and 3 hours in ethics as stated in these rules? So we'll get some idea of, where all the other jurisdictions stand relative to these rules. Because I've had, I can't tell you how many emails from evaluators and go back and forth, back and forth. Well, how do we know what qualifies? Well, you're the people who do the education evaluation. You should be able to tell me what qualifies. I'm not an educator and I'm not an academic, so. But then the answer is look at the syllabus. So then if you have to look at the syllabus, so we have to look at the syllabus for every course that everybody takes to see. So there's just so many questions and no real answers. So I think we're going to need to amend these rules to some extent, but I wanted to find out from the other jurisdictions, where they stand relative to these issues, and this integrated content concept, because to me it's, and talking with the people I've talked to so far, it's more of a concept than it is reality in terms of seeing any credit on a transcript anywhere and giving credit for it in that sense. And the board, of course, doesn't have the resources to look at the syllabus for every course that every kid submits to see if it's integrated either. So,
Dave, it's a real challenge. Being a faculty member, I would tell you that there's a lot of faculty that are very conscious about integrating this stuff.
yeah.
Particularly, the research could appear in a number of different places. So it's, I'm confident that a lot of programs are doing it, but trying to identify the credit hours that are embedded in 3 and 4 courses, it's a rule that's tough to enforce, and I get the enforcement issue. And so I don't have a bright line answer for you here. At the end of the day, you've got to try and trust what you get out of the program as a whole.
Yeah, that was kind of my thinking from what I've seen, and all the people, like you said, Ray, all of the professors that were on that call or that webinar I was on, all of them agreed that they teach that content and it is integrated in many of the courses, but none of them could say, yeah, you could say give them an hour or 2 hours of credit. He said you can't really tell, so I'm thinking that this is probably something that needs to be looked at from the UAA language standpoint, because I've told the evaluators, from our perspective, if it shows up as a discrete course like ethics or a 2-hour research or whatever, if you have a discrete course, then and they got credit for it, then give them credit for it. But we can't penalize them or say they're not qualified to sit because it doesn't show up as being integrated credit. So because they're like, well, if it has to show up on the transcript, how do I know? I'm like, well, it's probably never going to show up on the transcript. It's just embedded in all the courses. So.
And I think you're right that we probably the right thing is for NASBA to look at the UAA.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad to hear that. I plan to bring it up at the executive directors meeting I'm going to the end of April. So we'll see what happens from there.
All right.
Anyway, I just wanted everybody to be aware. I think that's part of the issue, but we'll hopefully find out from this quick poll where a lot of the other jurisdictions stand, and if anybody has anything to say about it. I thought it'd be interesting to find out, just to have some background material before I go raising Cain about it. Anybody have any questions about that?
No, I think that's good.
Okay.
I'm interested to hearing back from your quick Paul.
Yeah, I'm real curious to hear how many people have, if any beyond us have adopted this language, because I haven't heard from, and the funny thing was that we adopted it in 2016, but I only heard from the evaluators when the 150-hour rule kicked in, and I posted the thing on the website saying, here's the law, here's the current law of what's required. And they're like, oh, what's that? So obviously they hadn't looked at it for 5 years. Okay, anyway, I'll move on to the next item is where I went here. Is transition policy for
transition.
the CPA exam. Yeah, I'm going to slip down here to this one main slide, and this there's write-up is the same stuff we've been seeing about the different sections. And this one main slide kind of tells the whole story. I think it's this one. This one's the easier one to see. This is the basic process. So everything pretty much stays the same from an audit, FAR, and reg standpoint. They stay the same. You pass, those are the 3 core sections. So everybody has to pass those 3 sections. And right now what we have is the BEC section. And it's the one section that goes away as of January 1st, 2024, when they implement the new exam. So essentially what's happening is if you have passed audit, FAR, and reg, and you pass BEC before January 1st, 2024, then you're done. If you have not passed BEC by January 2024, it falls away, and you will be required to take one of the other 3 discipline sections: the business analysis and reporting, or information systems, or tax compliance and planning. So essentially the only thing that's changing from an exam section standpoint is that BEC is replaced by the 3 disciplines: the business analysis, the information systems, and the tax compliance. So that's really the gist.
And Dave, if I
Okay.
understand right, if somebody's passed the BEC, say they've passed BEC, FAR, and reg, and they've got to finish audit during the transition period, they would still retain the BEC, FAR, and reg, and the old audit would transfer to the new audit.
That's correct. Yeah, if they've, anybody who's passed BEC before January 1st, 2024 retains that credit for BEC, and they're not required to go and take a discipline. The only people taking disciplines will be the people who are in progress candidates that did not pass BEC by January 2024. The other thing I'll say about it is that you can only pass, I should say, you can only pass one discipline. You can take one discipline, and if you don't pass it, you can take a different one. But if you take one and pass it, you're done. You don't get to go back and take different, another one and another one. So it's kind of a one and done thing. So.
Yeah. So Dave, you're still called a CPA, just and regular CPA.
Correct.
You don't have any special designation.
No, there are no special, no specialty designations at all. This is everybody's just a CPA still.
So, the way I'm looking at this is, I'm looking at experienced, let's say, accountants who already have been working in industry or the firms for a few years. And so it makes sense for them, right? So those already working in tax or audit, or, for example, those that we would hire from the Philippines or wherever, it makes sense for them. They when it comes to the BEC, they know which section to go to. But I'm curious for those that are graduating straight out of college, they're going to have to make that choice if they're going to, before they even work in a CPA firm, those that want to take the exam right after college, they're going to have to decide, immediately whether they want to take BAR, ISC, and or tax, right? So
Correct.
so that might be I'm just curious, will the tendency be more to take to take bar, or I'm just curious if there's been any sort of discussion or estimation, and who exactly is going to want to go into ISC, take that up.
I think the thinking behind this whole process has been that, well, there's just way too much information for any one test to test all of it without getting, really big and expensive and long. So the breakup of BEC into disciplines is so that everybody gets the standard core courses between auditing, financial accounting, and tax and business, basically business regulation. That core is there for everybody because you're required to have that to be a CPA anyway. But then if you have a focus of IT versus tax versus, auditing, analysis, and reporting, or financial statement reporting, then you can fall into one of those areas of interest that can test you more in depth in that area than it would in trying to just do all of these within one single test.
Yeah.
Attract the other side of that is they're trying to attract the people that are not, core accountants and financial reporting people, like the IT people and some of the tax people and investment people and things like that, I think.
John, you ask an interesting question, and for the kids coming right out of college, it's going to depend a little bit on what their education is. I'm not sure that a school like the University of Guam, which is on the smaller side, would be prepared to prepare students for all three disciplines.
Right.
Yeah.
They might be able to, help the students prepare for one or two of them. If you're looking at a big school like the University of Illinois and some of these Big Ten schools or Pac-12 schools, some of those programs are big enough and deep enough that they can cover the whole thing. But you're going to find a lot of schools around that are going to kind of specialize, and their students probably going to come out, focus on getting, say, BAR, business analysis and reporting.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they've got that in their pocket, they still can practice in the tax area. They're not prohibited from that. They're going to have to get that expertise on their own, right? So, so what a student coming out of college after January 1, 2024 is going to need to do, it will depend a bit on, what the faculties are able to deliver. So just food for thought.
Yeah, I think that, and then you couple that with some of the students that have an IT bent or an analysis or statistical kind of bent that would want to go into those different areas. And of course,
I was just wondering if we think that we're going to see courses built around these, test areas.
I think that goes to the curriculum.
I think you will. I think that's part of what the goal of the model curriculum is about.
Correct.
And so I think you will start seeing coursework built around the model curriculum for some of these areas, so that students, when they've graduated, are confident that I'm ready to sit for the exam in one of those three areas.
Correct. I think you'll see all the review course providers also building their materials to compensate for these.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll see the review course providers be all over that.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, that's kind of where it's heading, so just so you know. Anybody have any other questions? Anybody want to sign up to take a discipline? Not so. Okay. So the last thing I have is the financial summary, which is basically showing us doing pretty much okay for the first 5 months. Again, I estimate the application fees because there's a 2-month lag on that, but so far I've been within about $1,000 every month, so we're not too far off. But from what I see, even with zero test center revenues, we're basically about 30,000, 34,000 to the good right now with excess revenues once you take out the $1 million contribution. And we're still holding enough cash that could see us through for at least a couple of years, if not 3 years worth of expenses, if we had zero revenues. So I think we're still pretty much to the good. And when I extrapolated the averages and look at the licensing fees, because that's what really the individual licensing fees are, the renewals, and that's really starting to pick up now that it's into March, and it's just going to get more and more through June 30th. So it looks like we have good momentum there. And our exam application fees, oddly, we're showing a 17% increase over what it was last year. Where in a lot of the other area jurisdictions, it doesn't seem to be going up as much. I'm not sure why that is, but it is. So I'm thankful for it. So we're doing well enough in that sense. I was going to say, Telling, I'm not sure when you said something about the RFP going over the 500,000 mark.
Yeah, so if we, over the life of the contract, if we believe that it's gonna go over the,
Is it the
500.
life? Is it the life of the contract, or is it
It's-
the annual? Because I always
it's-
thought it was the annual amount.
no, it's the life of the contract. So if for instance, there's a 3-year contract with, 2 1-year extensions,
Mhm.
I believe that the calculation is over at least the 3-year period.
Okay, I always thought it was just a 1-year period because everything's subject to, approval every year, appropriation every year. So,
I mean, I can confirm that. It has to do with, it has more to do with the requirement to have the AG review it.
right, yeah, yeah.
And so technically theoretically, we could push forward without getting their approval, but they have this disclaimer, or I don't know, warning in their on the website that says if you don't work with us, we might not push,
Approve it.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you have to start all over again.
Yeah, yeah, been there, done that. Okay, I was just curious. I've always proceeded on all the other bids that we've done through STG that it's always been based on the annual amount because of the fact that if it's not appropriated, there's nothing there. So, but I don't know what the rules, they may have changed it. So, yeah. Okay. This was the application processing to year to date, so from October to January. So we've for revenues for 2022 or higher, they're up 17% overall. And so the exam applications, we still have about the same average number of sections per applicant, which is at 1.3 now. It used to be 1.7 through the test center, but for our applicants, it's 1.3. But we're still holding our own with about a 17% increase in this will drop down a little bit for February, but then it'll pick back up in March and April. So, but on the whole, our processing application fees are standing up. So in that sense, we've reached that milestone essentially of paying for ourselves without the test center, which is a good thing because our test center year to date, October through January processed, I think I counted 21 tests candidates that sat for, or maybe it was 18 candidates that sat for 21 sections, something like that. It's not very much.
Dave,
But-
do you know how they operate? I mean, are they like generally closed, and then when there's an appointment, they open up?
Well, actually, Randy is basically there every day running the test center,
Okay.
and
Okay.
they're using, they're open every day. I think what Pat was telling me is they have one or two of the employees there that they've trained to do evaluation work, to some part of the evaluation work. So they use them to do like preliminary evaluation work. And then of course, when they, when they have somebody sign up to test, then they're there to monitor the test. They're all qualified, but my understanding is that's what they're doing now. I did hear
Okay.
that Korea was going to relax its
is?
its quarantine requirements for returning or incoming travelers. And if that's the case, we may pick up some people. It's supposed to be in the next couple of weeks, and that was about a week ago. So maybe in the next month, we can, if they do relax their incoming quarantine requirements, then we can start seeing some of the Koreans come back to test in the test center. Even though they can test in Korea, the test center still there is only 24 seats. It's still very small. It's hard to get appointments there, so some of them may want to come back. If China relaxed its incoming quarantine requirements and they can get visas, we would definitely have at least a couple hundred every month coming because they have nowhere else to go. Even though they're allowed to test in Korea or Japan at this point, they can't get visas into either Korea or Japan. And even if they could, they probably wouldn't be able to get a seat in the test centers there. They're not very big.
They having a resurgence of the virus in some of the Chinese cities like Hong Kong, I thought I saw.
Yeah, I keep seeing different information from different areas, but yeah, that's what I've seen here and there. It's hard to tell, but we have some candidates like our biggest fluctuation with the Chinese candidates typically comes through Taiwan, Hong Kong, mainland China, but then we have a reasonable number coming from Mongolia. So, but they're all having the same issues with the return quarantine at this point. So, if Taiwan relaxes, I know Japan relaxed theirs now to a 3-day quarantine. If you've had a test when you come in, it's only 3 days. So we'll see what happens. But at this point, at least we're able to pay our bills and run our board and without any test center revenues. So anything we get will just be icing on the cake and continue to fund the endowment fund. So. That's basically all I have. The only other thing I wanted to raise is that the executive directors conference is the end of April, and then there's an AICPA council meeting on May the 16th or 18th, something like that. So I'm planning to leave on May the 22nd, just the day after our April meeting, and be back like the end of May, the May 31st, I think. And then the NASBA regional meeting is June the 6th in Colorado. So I'll go to that, but then be back for our June meeting, unless you guys want to look at, anybody wants to go to the regional meeting, I need to know, and then we can get scholarships for that meeting in June in Colorado. It's the week of June the 6th, so
June 6th.
yeah,
Dave, can you just go ahead and request for me?
okay. Is anybody else interested in going?
June 6th.
It's not a problem if you want to go. I can get more than one.
Having been to a number of NASBA regional meetings, they're very interesting. There's a lot of interesting topics. So if you can find it in your schedule, I think you'd find it worthwhile.
I wouldn't mind going if no one else goes, but I think I'd like, if there's a choice, I'd rather go to the annual.
Okay.
Following, if you want to go, Dave said it's not an issue.
Yeah, you can still go to regional and the annual if you want to. I mean,
Okay.
we can get there. I don't think that's an issue if you want to go.
Okay, okay, yeah, just let me know what the dates are.
Yeah, it's the week of June the 6th. I think the meeting is 6, 7, and 8. Yeah.
Okay,
I'll send you the information about it. So by then, I think Ray will be going back to the warm side of Oregon, right?
Warm side of Oregon.
In May. Yeah. Okay, I don't have anything else, unless anybody has anything they want to bring up.
I don't have anything.
Okay. And we can
Anyone else from
adjourn.
the board? Okay, may I hear a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Francis. Thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned.
Okay,
Happy
everybody.
St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, today is David's,
yeah.
my son's birthday, so he's a
Oh.
St. Patrick's Day baby.
Did he come out green?
Well, a little green, but then they took the cord from around his neck, and he came out. He started to turn pink again. So. But his boys all tease him and pinch him. So okay, everybody. Well, I'll see you in the near future, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
You.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.